joyous holiday to everyone who have come here for this winter meditation course here at Kibi, New Delhi, India. I'm sure all those who have come here, no matter how many times you have come here, it's always a long journey, and with each journey we all know what brings. There are a number of let's say challenges that you have to overcome just to be here, because how to say, mainly because of during the holiday times that you have to let go of many of your social engagements just to be here. And so for that I very much appreciate, as always, because I'm sure many of you normally would rather spend these times with your families and friends, of course, because as the idea of time goes by, annually one could say, conditions become more and more difficult, seems to become more and more difficult to have these precious moments where you can exchange with, whatever you wish to exchange with your loved ones and those whom you have connections with. So you have chose to come here, and it's very courageous. For those of you who have been coming here over the course of time, probably would have an idea about what we are doing here. For some of you, it may be, let's say, somehow new for you to be here, and so therefore you may not altogether know why you're here, sort of thing. So, all in all, I deeply appreciate for your attendance, and I truly hope that during these few days of practices that you will establish, as we say in a traditional sense, in a Buddhist sense, establish some form of Buddha-dharmic connection. So, having said that, first of all, I must praise you, although praising and criticizing, they all sort of go together. Nevertheless, genuinely, I want to praise all of you to not just attend these courses or talks or whatever form of, one could say, of course, meditation is a very general word, so therefore, of course, these are all great. But the first session of the practice that you all attended, and that most likely you will be attending during this course, the Sojong practice, is extremely beneficial. I'm sure the vow givers must have explained the benefit of it. not necessarily the faults of not taking those Sojong vows, but more on the side of the benefits, let's say. So exactly as they were explained, those are absolute, because whatever amount of time we're able to spend, let's say in a traditional sense, with these practices, whether we understand them, whether we are able to connect with them or not, the time that you spend could be the next 24 hours or not, or during the whole course. Through this, the amount of credit, which we say merit, in forms of wisdom, in form of merit and wisdom, which are basically forms of credit. Credibility is like a currency, which is very useful, of course. In absolute terms, it means nothing. But in our society, these are very, very useful things, and probably it's the best form of credibility. It's the best form of gaining trust. It's the best form of gaining confidence in oneself and in others. So therefore, those of you who have attended in these Sojong practices are to be extremely respected, and for that I very much appreciate. And then on top of it, then the rest of the merit or credit accumulating practices are to be built on. That's how it goes normally. That's why we take the practice of refuge, for example. Because on top of building some form of confidence, then the rest of the skills, one could say, or disciplines or conducts are built on. Of course, in terms of absolute, in an absolute sense, all of these are sort of just nothing more than words, and so therefore there are no real rules. But in terms of society, the social structure, then it is such that such conditions are required. That's why we say that in Buddhism the practice of refuge is extremely important. That type of practices are known as the commonly known as the Pratyekmokša vows. But of course that's a very traditional way of interpreting it. Personally, I would say that they are somewhat like, well, basically what I said so far, credibility building practices. Yeah. That I do something that is visible, that is visible in your eyes, that is visible within our interaction. And so, therefore, let's say that I promise not to kill, let's say. Of course, in absolute terms, there's no way of describing actually what is killing and what is not killing. It's impossible to describe. For example, the very air we breathe, we don't know, we cannot really account in terms of how many, I don't know, bacteria or that has living cells, maybe even sentient or consciousness, elements. And so therefore we absorb these, and so therefore it's almost like we are living on such appetite sort of thing. So therefore it's very difficult to differentiate. But nevertheless, according to a certain pattern, let's say, a commonly agreed pattern, yes, that we say, okay, here is a social sort of understanding of it's acceptable, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, sort of thing. On that basis, then we can make a relative rule, and that's exactly what it is, these forms of vows or practices. So therefore, by performing that, by performing what is visible, what is agreed upon, then it can build a very unique type of currency, a kind of currency where we can have very strong trust and confidence. So it is on that we try to have a common language, common understanding, and then whatever is said afterwards are all acceptable, sort of thing, agreeable. So then on that basis, if you say something is white or something is red or something is yellow, then we can all agree. So it's something like that. But to find a common ground like this, to be able to accept, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. Even during the times when the social sort of structure was not that global, which would be actually much easier in a way, because it's just among certain type of within maybe, let's say, limited countries, nations or continents, and even then it was still challenging. And nowadays, of course, we are all considering ourselves as global citizens, where we have to think of almost all continents, yes? So in that sense, then of course there are the social structure and the boundary and the agreements, let's say, the level of it is such that it's almost impossible to agree, let's say, of exactly what is white. Nevertheless, impossible is nothing, so to speak. So therefore,